Hello and welcome back to Copic in the Craft Room. It's Michelle Houghton here, and we are tackling another stamp this week. I'm going to be doing two things this time, and two requests specifically. One is I've got another Art Impressions stamp. A couple weeks back I did kind of three old men sitting on a bench for Father's Day, and I had a request to do one of the women's groupings, and so Art Impressions has a ton of these in all different poses and situations. Obviously, these four gals are sitting on a bike. What I like about these stamps is it gives us lots of opportunities to practice skin tones and kind of collect those skin tones that you love and try a bunch of different ones out all in one image. So these four ladies are squished on a bike, and we're going to tackle this one. The other thing I'm going to do this week and over the next couple weeks is I also get requests to see coloring done in real time versus that fast forward effect. Well, what that means is if I time something out at about 10 minutes, that's about how much coloring time I usually will put into a video that I put on air. So I want to show you what that 10 minutes looks like and what I can accomplish in that. So it's not going to be the entire stamp. There's no way. In fact, it won't even be necessarily a third of the stamp. So because I've got a lot going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the skin this week, and we'll see how far we get. We may only get the skin tones, and I'll actually be lucky to get 4 faces done in 10 minutes, but it'll give you a sense of how long it really does take to color and seeing my coloring done at real time. I am going to voice over because I think it always helps me to do the coloring first and then come back and give you those instructions. So you'll still have that same effect of me voicing over and adding the colors as we go. So I'm going to zoom in, and then we will talk you through coloring these gals on their bike. So this is going to take a while. Remember that. This is a YR with 4 zeros, and I'm starting on the first face, kind of front and center. And she has got kind of a pale skin tone. We're going to work from pale to dark with 4 different combinations. Now these are small faces, so I'm using 2 or maybe 3 colors on each face, but I'm going through and doing all the skin at once. So I've got her face, then I've got hands, and then eventually here I'm going to work down to her ankles. So I'm working in small circles. That's what I tend to do with that base coat, just to get good coating. But you can see there, like as I'm working down the leg, I'm doing small flicks. It's not a right or wrong. It's just I'm trying to get that good base coat to start. And then this is a YR00. I'm flicking this color in. So this is my second color, or my mid-tone, and I'm flicking it on. Obviously in those tighter areas it doesn't look much like a flick, but I am trying to start from the darker region and flick onto the lighter where I can. That's going, and that flick means I'm lifting the pen up at the end of the stroke. Obviously around that eye, I'm just dotting that color in or dabbing it in very gently. I am trying to get some detail of shading, and hopefully right from the get-go you're going to notice that the light source is coming in from the left. So the 3 ladies on the bike are facing the light source. The majority of them are facing that way. The shading comes from underneath on those wrists and from the back side of her ankle and bottom edge of the feet. And debatable on that back leg, but because it's to the back I can actually add dark kind of throughout. Going back with that YR with 4 zeros to soften that. Now on this one, because I'm only using the 2 colors, all I'm doing is going back in with a circle stroke. It's going right over the edge where that YR00 hits and smoothing out the area in between. So it hopefully is going to fade right from one into the other. Making sure to do that on the ankles, and then coming up and also doing that on the wrists and hands, so that we end up with a smooth transition on all of her skin areas. I am going to add just a touch of one more color. This is an E. Oh, sorry, that went back in with the YR00 on the fingertips. I'm going to add some E93 on her cheekbones, just to add a little bit of a blush, kind of a red cheek area, because obviously she's working hard. She's the one pedaling all those gals around. And then I'm smoothing that back out with a YR with the 4-0, so that lightest color, because for the most part that's coming along that edge where the light color hits it. So smoothing it out with that. So moving on to our second lady, and she's on the back of the bike this time. I'm going to start with that E50 and fill in all those skin areas. Now I'm switching over to an E53. This is going to darken that up. Now she's a little bit more of a challenge because she's facing away from the light source, but not only that, she's tucked behind everyone. So it's really hard to find where those like highlights are going to be. There's not going to be a whole lot of them. I'm doing some edges of those fingers and maybe, but you can see how she's tucked in behind that person. So this face out of all of them, to me, presents the biggest challenge. Obviously, the right-hand side of her face is going to be darker. She's turned away from the light. The light is on that left side, but again, she is tucked in behind those other people and facing away from the light. So I am bringing the shading in from the second side as well. You can see using those flicking motions again with that E53. And these little faces are hard. I'm trying to add a little more shape to them, but they're a challenge because they're so small on these art impression images. I love them and they are fun, fun, fun. And you can simplify the shading. You don't have to go quite as detailed as what I've done. Now I'm going to go ahead and smooth those areas back out, coming back in with my E50. Again, small circular strokes for me, for this particular image, because those faces are so small and I'm just doing those two colors. The small circular stroke works really well for the blending. I wouldn't necessarily do that on every face or every image that I do, but in this case, that seems to be working pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of blush on her as well with the E93. I'm also adding it as her lip color, but give her some rosy cheeks as well. They all, my assumption has been, have been laughing hard. So they've got rosy cheeks, so they may have applied a little blush this morning. So the next, so I need to blend that or soften it. And I did go back this time with the E53, that middle or the darker color on the skin. And then I'm also going back with E50. If I went back with the E50 all the way around that lighter, the blush area, you'd end up with kind of a bleach mark around the cheek. So I wanted to make sure to use both of my colors when blending that kind of blush color back in. I'm touching up the lips on that first lady just with a little bit of R20 just to give her a little hint of pink on those lips. And then I'm going to move on to our third gal who's tucked in on the bike, kind of behind the first one. And I'm going to start with an E11 or E11. So this is going to be kind of more of a suntan skin color, or a darker brown skin color. So like I said, we're kind of going from a light version or a light skin tone into some middle skin tones, and then we'll end with a darker skin tone. So this one starts with that E11. I'm being really careful. I get close to the second lady so I don't mess up her skin and her face. Got two hands, getting those tucked in. Fingertips on the other shoulder. And then I come down and we've got one ankle. Now I realized much later, in fact, I don't realize until I start coloring the clothing and bikes, that I've missed the second ankle, but I missed it on this video. So I will come back and do it. but I couldn't really see it the first time through. There is a second ankle behind the wheel. So if you see that now, you can go ahead and color that in. Otherwise, you can do it when I do it, which is later in another video. E13 is next for the shading, again coming from the back of the ankle because we're facing forward again from the underside of the hands, kind of coming down and up into those little fingers, bottom of the thumb, getting to that backhand. And then I'm going to come in and add just some touches on the face. She doesn't have a whole lot of her face showing, but we're going to get to the far side of the nose, just barely, to show that shape, and come up from underneath on the chin just a little bit. I'm using just the lightest touch on the tip of my brush nib because this is such a small area. But you can see how slowly I have to work on a small image like this. It really slows down. I'm using way up on the tip of that brush nib. E11 or E11 is coming back in to smooth that out. It's not going to take much because there was such little color added. So I'm just barely coming in and retouching those areas, softening the transition between the two, the E11 and E13. Hitting that front hand and wrist and just touching that finger. They really don't need it on that backhand, and then just a little bit on the ankle down at the bottom. So I'm going to gather up another group of markers, and I'm going to move to the lady in the front riding in the basket. She's got the best job going, I think. E33 is what I'm going to start with, and obviously right from the get-go this is going to be a much darker skin tone. This is the light base color that I'm choosing. This one is actually a little bit easier to color just in that her eyes are closed, and so I'm not having to avoid those, which on an art impression sometimes is hard to do. Her mouth is open, so I'll be careful going around that area, but I'm going to touch all the way down through that neck and chest area, and then also get her wrists and ankles with that base color. So the next color is an E35. That's going to be my first layer of shading. And on this face, I'll tell you from the get-go that I'm going to be doing 3 different colors. So I'm flicking in along that side away from the light, which is that right-hand side, flicking in kind of under the cheekbone, under the chin, kind of from that back shoulder a little bit forward. Kind of that neck area at the back edge. And I'll define this even better with my second color, but you can already see that shape of her face kind of really shining through by adding some of that minimal shading. Kind of touching in around the nose on the far side, away from the viewer. Flicking from the bottom of the wrist or the far side of the wrist and the bottom edge of those ankles and legs. And then switching to my darkest color, which is going to be that E37. This is fairly dark, so I handle it with care. I don't add a whole lot of this, but lesser amounts in all of those areas that I colored with the E35. Right toward the back of the neck, coming up and under the jawline, kind of really helping define the shape of her face a little bit more. There's not a line there from the stamp, but I just feel like that adds a lot of dimension to her face. Hitting both the areas around her ankle and her wrist. And because this is such a small area, when I go back and blend, I'm actually only going to go back with my lightest color. So I'm going back all the way to my E33, and notice this time I'm flicking. So I'm starting kind of in that darker area with the E37, and I'm pulling the color out with my E33. So I'm flicking it out onto that lighter area. And I probably am going to have to go across the whole thing and re-wet it real lightly, but that's going to smooth it all the way through and give me that nice transition from dark to light. So you're getting to see kind of both ways that I do some of my blending. On the wrists and ankles, because it's a little bit smaller, you see me doing a little bit of the circular motion, and then also some of that flicking as well. So that was exactly 14 minutes of coloring. So a little longer than we normally do, but it gives you a sense of about how long some of this happens in real life. I will come back next week and we will tackle a couple more sections. I will definitely get their hair done and either start on the bike or some clothing. My guess is I will either finish it up in a third video at a little faster pace, or we can kind of chunk away at it. But there's the first portion. That's about 12, 14 minutes of coloring. If you enjoyed this and have not had an opportunity, I would invite you to please come like our channel, Copic in the Craft Room on YouTube, and also like this video. We are gathering followers so that you guys can get those new videos in your inbox every week, and we surely appreciate the following. Also, for more inspiration, we have a Facebook page over again at Copic in the Craft Room on Facebook. You'll find the links to our videos, but you'll also find the links to photo tutorials and all sorts of Copic inspiration. Make sure to ask questions and leave comments down below. I am always watching and trying to respond as quickly as possible. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Have a happy, colorful week.